My good wishes to one and all. At the very outset, I'd like to congratulate Team Vedant for organizing this wonderful and much needed Vikshit Bharat at the rate 2047 virtual conference. And I would also like to thank Team Vedant in general and Dr. Arjun Dave in particular for kindly inviting me to chair a session at this prestigious event, which, amongst many other important dignitaries, even our Honorable Prime Minister, Sir, has noted and kindly appreciated. I hope Team Vedant all the best in all their future endeavors. Now, coming to the papers, I was asked to preside over 20 papers on a variety of topics and be the session chair for them. So, here I am trying to do my best in talking how I found out about each of those papers or what I found out about each of those papers and to give a brief summary and analysis of all those papers. So, in the first paper, this paper titled Gender Roles Etched in Jayashree Mishra's Works, K. Sashi and Dr. Shakila Banu Sheikh argues that in India, gender roles have been deeply rooted in society for ages, constructing the social, economic, and cultural dynamics of the country. Indian culture and tradition have assigned distinctive roles to the expectations of society. They have argued that society influences the behavioral patterns of men and women. They have also argued how India is a patriarchal society largely, where men hold power positions and authorities, and women are expected to satisfy domestic and caring roles, though they accept that there are a few references to matriarchal and egalitarian practices in certain communities without India. In their paper, they have analyzed the gender roles etched in a few of Jayashree Mishra's novels, like Ancient Promises, Accidents Like Love and Marriages, Afterwards, A Scandalous Secret, and A Love Story for My Sister. Finally, they wind up by referring to an article entitled Sexual Differences and the Problem of Essentialism by Elizabeth Grosz, who noted that the so called egalitarian feminists such as Simone de Beauvoir, Betty Friedan, Kate Millett, et al. Propagated the view that there is nothing distinctive about women's nature and women's subordinate status is the result of cultural construction, not biological nature, and can therefore be changed. They argue in the paper that while we have made strides towards equality, traditional gender roles continue to persist. Therefore, it is crucial to continually challenge these norms, fostering a society that values individuals for their capabilities and potential rather than their gender. Coming to the next article, Komal Sanchania's The Unique Cloth is a refreshing English translation of the brilliant Tenali Rama, one who is a minister of King Krishnadeva Raya, and the stories have been taken from various sources, oral as well as written. Just like his other counterparts, like say Birbal of Akbar's court and Gopal Bhar of Raja or King Krishna Chandra's court, Tenali Rama too is extremely clever. In this story, he exposes the fraudulence of an unscrupulous visitor who tries to cheat and earn money by wanting to buy a cloth of no color or be given money if it cannot be provided. Now, Tenali Rama, being the wisest minister, helps the king to overcome this problem, and while doing so, the paper argues that he highlights the importance of patience, wit, and honesty. This paper highlights the power of thinking, or this not paper, but this translation actually, it highlights the power of thinking outside the box and the consequences of defeat. Next, in Miss Ankitaba Jadeja's paper titled Murder in the Cathedral and Macbeth, a comparative analysis of murder and power, she examines the themes of murder and power in order to determine how T.S. Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral and William Shakespeare's Macbeth are thematically similar, though the reasons for the murders are different. While in the former, Becket's assassination was to remove the church's authority and establish secular dominance over it, in the latter, the assassination of King Duncan was driven by a desire for power and personal ambition. She winds up by arguing that Macbeth, that's the play, and Murder in the Cathedral provide excellent literary analysis of murder and authority, and though the effects of violence and the quest for power are depicted in both works, the settings and moral implications of these portrayals differ very much in these two texts. In Ms. Somaya Prarthana Manish Bhai's paper, The Conflict Between State and Spirituality in Murder in the Cathedral and the Mahabharata, she discusses, quite interestingly, how the age old conflict between state and spirituality is at the heart of the dominant themes in Murder in the Cathedral and the Mahabharata. She argues that in both works, we witness the confrontation between secular authority and spiritual principles as characters navigate the complexities of power and faith. She goes on to argue that while the settings and characters are different in both these works, they all enlighten the complexities of navigating the secular authority and spiritual principles, and by exploring the theme, she invites the readers to consider the delicate balance between governance and belief, leaving us with an enduring perception into the human conditions. Next, in Pranchi Mehta's article, Echoes of the Mind, A Journey into Character Psyches in A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, she has focused on the psychological depths and the inner turmoil of four of its characters, namely Sidley Carton, Charles Darnay, Dr. Alexandre Manet, and Madame Defarge. She concludes that though Dickens was influenced by Carlyle's The French Revolution in writing A Tale of Two Cities, yet she reiterates that Dickens's outlook of the revolutionary violence differed significantly from that of Carlyle. She feels, or she argues, that unlike Carlyle, Dickens could see no justice in that violence. And she also argues that it is Dickens's propagation of the idea of the French Revolution that gets more traction in England than Carlyle's idea of revolution, both during his times and during the recent times. Next, in Kajal Sanghani's book review of The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, she explores themes like courage, resilience, pride, and respect, and relationships between human and nature. Also discussed in the relationship between youth and age, represented by Santiago and his apprentice Malonin respectively. She also dwells on the many symbols in the novel, like the shark, the sea, the lions, the mast, Joe DiMaggio, the sun, the stars, and so on and so forth. It's a very refreshing study, a review of the age-old text, which is very popular among students. In Khushi Sheth's article, Critically Appreciating Character of Nora in A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, she focuses on how Henrik Ibsen shows Nora as an exemplification for women of all times. She shows how Nora struggles in her life after taking the extreme step to leave Helma's house, but when she gains courage from her inner self, she is able to overcome her weaknesses. Her strength from within is enough to showcase and overpower her weakness. Miss Sethi winds up by saying, or Miss Seth rather, winds up by saying that though the play is set in the 19th century, we as the readers of A Doll's House today sadly find that Nora's situation is still prevalent in our times. Next, in Vekaria Vidhi Manoj Bhai's article titled Top Key Elements from Murder in the Cathedral, she has discussed how the central theme of the play revolves around Thomas Beckett's unfaltering commitment to his faith and his refusal to compromise his principles. Through his character or its characters, the play raises important questions about the nature of individual integrity and the sacrifices one must make for their beliefs. She concludes that Murder in the Cathedral doesn't provide definitive answers, but rather invites contemplation and discussion on themes like, say, the nature of martyrdom and sacrifice, the clash between church and state, the complexities of faith, power, and responsibility, the search for meaning and forgiveness. And she argues that by leaving the conclusion open ended, Eliot encourages the readers or the audience to grapple with these profound questions and find their own interpretations. Next, Zala Jignasa Prudvi Rajnsky's book, Review of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, is an exploration of the moral nature of human beings, questioning whether people are essentially good or essentially evil. The novel approaches, according to her, this question by dramatizing Scout and Jem's transition from a perspective of childhood innocence, where they assume that people are good because they have never seen evil, to a more adult perspective. She argues that in this new perspective, they confront evil and must incorporate it into their understanding of the world and society. The next article, Meera N. Tolia's English translation of Ratilal Borisagar's The Story of Magical Letter, originally written in the Gujarati language, begins with highlighting the problems faced in translating, like finding equivalent words and idioms, and translating flares of tones like wit, sarcasm, and humor. The story centers around Niranjan and his friend's encounter with a mysterious letter that seems to possess magical properties. The author shows how Niranjan's uncle, Veda Sahib, is unable to decipher the letter himself, adding to its enigmatic allure. Despite their initial skepticism, Niranjan convinces his friend to use the letter to gain entry to a fully booked movie theater, successfully manipulating, and she provides a wonderful analysis of what happens after that. Next, Rudri M. Dave's book review of Chetan Bhagat's Two States shows how Bhagat skillfully combines romance, humor, and social commentary to create a gripping story that highlights the challenges of cross-cultural relations, and this book has again been made into a movie. Next, Hadiyal Kaja's research paper on Let the Rope Be Burned is a story from Sanskrit literature refreshingly translated into English. The root of the story is in the ancient book Bhoj Prabandha, composed by the great scholar Ballal. In this story, Ballal describes the dialogue between King Bhoja and the great poet Kalidas. The writer of this paper shows us through this story how we should understand that everywhere the old adage of old is gold is not true, and that many a times things are very easy, but using traditional methods makes them unnecessarily more complex and complicated. Next, Dr. K.J. Zala's paper titled A Study of Type D Personality and Depression Among Two Major Diseases, Coronary Heart Disease, CHD, and kidney patients is a research that investigates the difference between coronary heart disease and kidney patients on type D personality and depression. He has considered a total sample of 120 patients, of whom 60 are coronary heart disease patients and 60 are kidney patients, and they were selected from different hospitals in Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar district in Gujarat. The researcher had used research tools for type D personality scale as measured by John Denolet 2005 and depression scale as measured by Leonard R. and Dirac-Gretries scale in this research. Using charts and tables liberally, this study has firmly established that there is a significant difference between CHD and kidney patients on type D personality. Dhruvi Vora's article titled Exploring Inner Motives Through Expressionism in the Silent Patient by Alex Michaeldias delves into the intricate psychological landscape of Alicia, the protagonist. Departing from traditional narratives or narrative techniques such as confessional diaries, she argues that this study proposes the utilization of expressionism as a more nuanced approach to depict Alicia's inner motives. Through a qualitative textual analysis supplemented by insights from the author, this research has brought out layers of Alicia's psyche and her deliberate choice of silence following a traumatic event. By examining the novel through an expressionistic lens, this study has sought to bring out the underlying emotions, symbolisms, and motives that contribute to the richness of Alicia's character and the thematic depth of the narrative. Next, Dr. Pathik Praveen Y. Dodia's paper titled India 2047 Navigating the Path to a Sustainable and Inclusive Future imagines what India might be like in the year 2047, 100 years after gaining independence. In this research paper, the important aspects like the economy, technology, environment, education, healthcare, and governance have been covered, which are considered to be essential for the development of a country like India. By looking at what is happening now and guessing what might happen in the future, it is a bold attempt to give a complete picture of what India's future could look like in 2047. It ends with a rejoinder that achieving this vision will require concerted efforts from the government, industry, academia, and civil society to overcome the challenges and build a resilient and progressive nation. Next, Indu Dhiman, in her article titled A Study of Prospects and Challenges of Mobile Banking in India, argues that every industry relies on banking as its backbone, and technology plays an important role in every industry. One of the biggest financial institutions that frequently investigate the potential of technology to deliver superior customer service is banking, according to her. Banking has changed over time, moving from the old brick and store model where customers waited in lines to be served to the current one where banks are always available to provide service. So, with the advancement of technology and lifestyle of people, traditional branch of the banks have been replaced by electronic banking, that is e-banking, and more recently by mobile banking, that is m-banking. She argues that it's hardly a surprise that mobile banking is currently gaining major traction given the convenience of smartphones and their abundance of applications. This paper aptly discusses the importance of mobile banking and the major challenges in adopting it in the near future. Purva Trivedi's paper titled From Selfless Sacrifice to Silent Witness, a critical look at Jatayu and Bhishma's roles in protecting women, looks at the moral question of what we do when faced with the situations that challenges our values. She does this with the stories of Bhishma and Jatayu, who were faced with a similar situation, but their responses were vastly different. She aptly argues that the story of Jatayu illustrates supreme sacrifice to his object of worship, as Jatayu fights Ravana, knowing death could have been the only outcome. On the other hand, Bhishma chose to remain silent while Draupadi was being disrobed in the court, and though he had not sinned directly, yet he became a part of adharma. She concludes that by rereading the Ramayana and Mahabharata, we can learn valuable lessons that enrich our lives and guide us to become tomorrow's leaders, rooted in our rich culture, heritage, and traditions. Next, Shruti R. Viradia's translated story titled Mahadeva's Mercy, A Tale of Hunter and Deer, is a brave attempt to bring out a narrative that transcends cultural boundaries and beckons readers into a realm of universal themes. Through the art of translation, we endeavor to capture the essence and emotions embedded in each word, ensuring the story resonates with the heart of diverse audience across the globes. She implores her readers to join her as she tries to bridge the linguistic gaps, preserving the beauty of storytelling while embracing the richness of varied languages. Next, in Priyanshi Gohil's translated story titled Victory or Defeat, translated from Sanskrit into English, she shows how war has never been good for anyone, irrespective of whoever won it or whoever lost it. This story shows through the mythical character of Arjun how, though the wars of the past brought human devastation and loss, modern chemical warfare is even more alarming, as it is not only resulting in loss of human lives but polluting the environment and making it unusable for our future generations. Finally, in Ayushi Shah's article Revolutionizing Connectivity, the BharatNet scheme and beyond, she has discussed how India has made significant strides in harnessing the power of digital technology to drive growth and development. She accepts that the country's digital infrastructure and connectivity have improved with the implementation of various initiatives, yet she feels that there are still challenges and opportunities in enhancing digital connectivity across the country. To this end, she has focused on the key components of digital infrastructure in India and how they have contributed to improving connectivity, and also examined the challenges and opportunities in enhancing digital connectivity across the country, in every village, in every nook and corner. So those were all the papers, and with that I wind up my observations as the session chair and take your leave, thanking everyone associated with this event and thanking them for making it a grand success. Goodbye and see you all again.